Live from your blade.
I've been collecting computers for a long time, as you can see. However, I just picked one up that I've been waiting for a long time, the Amiga A600. Now, I already have a 500, and this is essentially just a redesign of that model, with one important difference. This has 1 megabyte of onboard memory versus the 512 kilobytes of the A500. Now, I know with both these models, I can add memory to my heart's content. I mean, there are limits, but I really like to see how these things operate right out of the box, the way they were intended and the way they were designed and built. I cannot wait to plug this thing in and get started. Look at this power supply. There's just one issue. This is built for 240 50 hertz. Now, I don't have 240 50 hertz. I've got a 220 line here for my dryer, but that's not 50 hertz, and everything else in my house, because I'm here in America, is 110, 120, 60 hertz. Now, normally this wouldn't be an issue. There's a lot of manufacturers out there that design switchable power supplies that, as long as you find a conversion plug for this, you can plug it into 110 or 220 or 240, and the power supply will operate and automatically feed the power to your computer, and you don't have to worry about anything. It's all handled internally. This is not a switching power supply, so I need to find another option. There are a few options you can go through. There are pre-built ones. There are several on eBay, Amazon that you can just order. I don't know how much I trust these things. There's so many that are just being poured in from China, and I've heard horror stories. And I don't really want to burn up my A600 before I actually ever get to use it. So after a lot of research and a lot of help from the Commodore Amiga Facebook group, I have settled on the Meanwell RT-65B. This was the most recommended model of a new power supply that will be able to go into the plastic shell of the Amiga power supply, and you can change it over for American usage. I could go and look for an original Amiga power supply that was made for the American market. But this also has an added benefit of updating all of your electronics. Old power supplies can go at any minute, and they can take your electronics with you. Now, I am a person that likes to stick with stock as much as I can, that likes the original out-of-the-box electronics and using everything together. That's why I'm tearing open the shell and putting in the new power supply, because I like that aesthetic. I want it as original as I can be. But if I can upgrade it, and I can make things newer and protect my electronics and my investment and everything else, I'm going to do that as much as possible. So, yes, I would love to use it completely original, how you would have used it if you purchased it back in the late 80s, early 90s, but that's just really not feasible or not really a smart thing to do with these old electronics. So I actually have a few different power supplies that I needed to upgrade, so I ordered a couple of these. These are around anywhere from $16 to $20. I ordered 3 of them off of Mauser, and I got them in 2 days, so I cannot wait to test this out. Okay, so I've got my RT-65B, and I've got this big bastard right here. This is the original power supply. I just need to open it up really quick. Now, I know, don't freak out. I'm moving very quickly. It's just something I can do. I can move at a superhuman speed. Let's just accept it and move on from it. Okay? It's very helpful for when I'm doing these types of projects. I get through them very quickly. In all seriousness, you don't need much to do this. Not even much time, just a Phillips head screwdriver. You need a flathead screwdriver for this right here. And you'll need some wire clippers, some wire strippers, and some wire grippers. And to be perfectly honest, that's just a fun way to say fingers, because I like rhyming. There's also going to be a little bit of soldering, but that's about it, and don't let that scare you, it's not much. Man, I tell you, I could look at these old circuit boards all day. Just so utilitarian, all these components sticking way off the board. They lack that delicate nature that all circuit boards seem to follow today. All function, no form, and I love to see it. Okay, since we don't actually need anything else off this board except for the wires, we're just going to clip them right off. But I want you to notice right here on the circuit boards, they've got the markings of what voltages are going to be going through. So you have these circuit designations. I want you to write these down on a piece of paper with the corresponding color. Yeah, you can look this stuff up all online, but I never trust manufacturers to stick with their own standards and schematics. So just to be safe, write them down so you know for certain what was going where. Okay, take your grippers and grab that board, and then just take your clippers, and there is no need to be delicate. Just cut those wires right off that board. We're not soldering, we're not resoldering, we're not desoldering, we're not doing anything here. We're going to strip these wires and put them directly to that new power supply, so don't worry about what they look like after you pull them off the board. And here it is, our new power supply. Look at this little guy. That's great. Okay, so here's everything you need to know. You got live wire right here, your neutral, your ground, not using that one, your different voltages and common ground, and your 5-volt potentiometer, just to make sure it puts out 5 volts. And here it is, the dreaded soldering. Now, as you can see, I'm just doing some quick adjoining soldering. You just apply a little bit of solder to each end of 2 wires, put them together, reheat the solder, and they'll connect. This is just so I can lengthen the wire a little bit, because I want to keep the original aesthetic. I am just lengthening the original wiring harness so I can keep reusing it, because I'm kind of spaz that way. So this is all you have to do. It's just time consuming. Just get it done. Unfortunately for me, I don't know where I put an entire box of wire because I've been rearranging my workshop. So I am using the same color wiring for everything that is the same gauge, which is about 20 gauge for the smaller wires, and then I'm using 14 or 16, I can't remember, for the ground wire, and that should be fine. I'll just label them so I know what I'm dealing with on the other side. So as you can see, I now have 3 blue wires, 2 brown wires, and a red wire coming through, none of which correspond to the colors that are on the other side. So, naughty me. And then finally, to protect all those brand new, beautiful soldering joints from shorting together or grounding and blowing up and ruining your new power supply and or your new Amiga, we're just gonna put some shrink tube over it. It doesn't take long. You can buy this set I have here at pretty much anywhere. I mean, I don't mean anywhere. It's like not your dentist's office, but any auto parts store or Home Depot or whatever. You can grab it. And I always try to avoid using electrical tape because it is my mortal enemy. I'm not kidding. We have like these epic battles all the time. We really want each other dead off this planet. It's getting really bad, everyone. It's getting really bad. And of course, I'm regaling you with stories of my epic feuds with inanimate objects because this is an exceedingly tedious part that I'm doing, but a necessary one. So, just make sure you label them because I can't stress enough, you do not want to hook something up in the wrong place. And now we're going to solve that little issue we have with the plug not fitting. So let's pull this original one off. Now, I don't know what you have. You may have to clip it off. This one was actually wonderful because you can just open it up and pull out these wires and reuse the harness again. So I've got one of these at my dentist's office. I'm of course kidding. As you can see, I got it at my ophthalmologist. And once again, while you are hooking these up, please make sure you know where it is going to on the other side. Make a note of the colors you are hooking up to live, hooking up to neutral, and hooking up to ground. And if you're not sure what goes where, here is a nice little diagram. You can pause and look at it. But essentially, when you're looking at the outlet, the hot wire or the live wire should be going on the right side, which of course means neutral goes on the left and ground is that little pokey thing in the middle. Did I just say pokey thing in the middle? Well, I don't regret it. Okay, so I've decided to stick with the original rocker switch, probably because I want to open this thing back up in 3 months and replace it. But essentially, you're going to hook one end of the lead up to the live wire coming from the wiring harness from the wall, and the other side of the lead hanging off of the switch, you will connect directly to the power supply that you are putting in there. So essentially, whenever you flip that switch, you are either opening or closing the live circuit. And I'm a complete idiot, and I just soldered that outside of the case. So now I have to cut it and resolder it, and yeah, man, what the hell was I thinking? And these old wires are difficult. Oh, and I forgot to put on shrink tube. That would have been awesome. I would have had to use my Mortal Enemy electrical tape, or redone it, so I'm glad I noticed that. Oh, hey, down in front. Oh, nice, perfect. I'm doing great with this video. Oh, there you go. And that's how you solder. Look at that, like magic. Did you all see that? Great. I'm glad you get it now. That was perfect, great instruction. And actually, one of the best things I found out about this thing is that it just kind of snaps into place if you just really work with it. It just snaps right between the standoffs for the screws. So that is really amazing. I don't have to modify the case at all, which makes me very happy because I didn't want to do that. Okay, so these leads ended up being a little bit shorter than I'd like, so I am actually going to go ahead and lengthen them just a little bit. I don't really like the idea of the wires constantly pulling and straining, so I'm just gonna lengthen them so I know everything's okay in here. Same process as before, you know, just make sure you match the gauge. This is 18 gauge wire, so, you know, that's really the most important thing when lengthening anything like that. You want to make sure you have the correct gauge so that it is rated for the correct amount of current that it'll be using. And it looks like stock they used 18 gauge wire, so I just went ahead and copied that. So I'm not too worried about it. That's good for about 7 to 10 amps. And we're just going to do a quick check before hooking anything else up. I just want to make sure the voltage is right and that I don't have to use that potentiometer, and it looks like everything's fine. So if your voltage is off on the 5 volt, you can control it with that potentiometer right next to it. Left or right will raise the voltage up or down. And that's all you really need to know. It's not that difficult. Just small little increments when you're fixing it. Small little increments. And just strip the ends of your wires, hook them into the correct terminals, and really tighten them down. And you know, you have that yellow wire that was labeled SEN, and you can just tape that off. You won't be using that at all. And then that large green wire hooked to your earth ground, that will share your ground from the AC line. So you can just hook both of those in there and just kind of arrange it so it's not resting on top of the standoff for the screws. That ground line is actually for the shielding on the plug that goes into the Amiga. And there you go, I'm going to tape off that line and stick it under there. And of course I'm using electrical tape here, but it's okay because I feel like I'm just capturing it in a casket where it's going to exist for the rest of eternity. And then at this point, you can just push that cap on. Now, I just want you to cram the thing on. Like, if you feel any resistance, just make sure you force it down. Just keep on pushing, and I don't care. Like, just keep pushing. I'm kidding. If you feel any resistance, don't be afraid. Just keep on moving the wires around, loosening them a little bit, rearranging them, retightening them down until you feel it seat properly without it getting stuck. Do not force anything down. I shouldn't have said that. I feel like someone just stopped the video there and then just started forcing things down. And they're going to turn it on, and the thing's going to catch on fire or something, and then they're going to blame me. And you can't blame me, because I'm telling you not to do that. Watch the whole video, you jerk. Well, it worked. I've actually been playing with it for a little bit now, and I'm not seeing any issues, no glitching, no slowing down, no flickering or anything like that. So that was actually a really easy job. It didn't take me very long. If I weren't recording, it would probably take you maybe 20-30 minutes, and it's well worth it. So I've been keeping an eye on the voltages. They stay pretty steady. They're not fluctuating in any way. It's a really well-built unit, and I'm really happy. I'm glad I did it, because I've been avoiding kind of working on any of this stuff for a while, and I've now got 2 or 3 power supplies I need to do. So I'm glad I did it, and so I would definitely give it a shot if you're not worried about opening up electronics and doing a little bit of technical stuff. It's not that difficult as long as you keep track of everything that you're doing. Write down colors and make sure you double check where things go before turning it on. But so yeah, now that I have the time, I've got a lot of stuff to repair. So I'm going to be doing a lot of these technical videos and repair videos and stuff. So I hope you come back and join me if you enjoyed this one. See you next time. Well, hey, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative, and I hope it wasn't too confusing, and I hope you didn't harm yourself or do any harm to your property or anything else. But seriously, thank you for watching. I really had a lot of fun doing this one. And I know I said it in my last video, but I actually am planning on doing a lot more of these. I have several more recorded, and I'm editing them as we speak. And I also have some more cartoons to draw, so thank you so much for stopping by, and if you feel like it, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.